Alright, cool beans. Hope you guys enjoyed that small montage. I'm Hex. I'm finally going to be going over an updated StamBlade build for the Necrom chapter update. Yes, it's finally time we get our StamBlades in action. What better way to start off than the StamBlade? Honestly, StamBlade is probably the easier of them both. Magblade, in my opinion, would do more damage. We're talking like 5 or 10% more damage, but StamBlade is just way easier to learn. Magblade is very sweaty, it's very complicated. StamBlade, easy mode. And that's what I like about StamBlade. Fun when I use it against enemies, but annoying when it gets used against me. Not only does it come with the meta sustain, meta tankiness, this comes with possibly one of the highest possible damage you can do. We are doing double damage when we crit. Yes, double damage. We are doing over 120% critical damage when we crit. And if they don't have any impen, good night. Hope just to keep nearby for them to res that. But how exactly we get this strong Nightblade build in order? Stick around to the end of the video and I'll show you exactly how. But before we get started, if you guys hit the subscribe and like button, really goes a long way and I greatly do appreciate it. Also, if you ever want to see me get Zerged over live, follow me on Twitch. But without further ado, let's Incap our way into the build. Alright, so let's go over the skills now. First skill we do run is power extraction. Obviously, this is an AoE that when you hit an enemy you do damage, but the main thing is when you hit an enemy, you get 20% more weapon and spell damage and minor courage. Over 200 weapon and spell damage, and you also reduce the enemy's weapon and spell damage by 215. And then our next skill, mass hysteria. I love this skill. Not only is it a great CC, it's basically an AoE stun that stuns all targets around you. It also puts major cowardice for 12 seconds, reducing their weapon and spell damage by 430. So if you cast these two skills together, you're reducing their weapon and spell damage by over 600 weapon and spell damage. And you have to realize with multipliers and everything else, that's equivalent to like 800, 900 weapon and spell damage you're taking away from them. That also affects their damage and their healing. They're healing for less and they're doing less damage. Next skill is Killer's Blade. This is basically just our execute. The lower health they are, the harder we hit, and we can get a heal if we kill them. Next is Merciless Resolve. Thankfully, this thing is getting changed next patch. I cannot wait. So right now, this patch, you have to cast this and then you get stacks. Light attacks give you stacks, weapon and spell damage. After 5 stacks, you cast this skill again, and you do a ridiculous amount of damage. Next skill is Surprise Attack. This is basically just our spammable. Do some damage, can proc the Sunder status effect. And for our next ultimate, we do run, obviously, the powerhouse that is Incapacitating Strike, or most commonly referred to as Incap. Basically, you do damage, and you also make the enemy take 20% damage if you connect this on them. And if you cast this over 120 ultimate, you stun them for 3 seconds. So this is really good. I don't know if you know this, but your bow from Merciless actually does more damage than your Incap. 16k, 12k. It's obviously unbuffed, but still. So yeah, basically this is basically just to set up the stun, and then your bow will guarantee melt someone if it crits, like 20k plus. So yeah, there is a bug with this thing. No, this man res up. So it says right here 120 ultimate, but if you're a vampire with cost increase and everything like that, it actually doesn't let you cast it like that. Let's just quickly check. So right here, at 120, I should be able to convert it into the Incap that strikes, right? Look at that. It won't let me cast it. I'm casting the ability, it won't let me cast it. Even though it says right here, at 120 ultimate, you can now cast this. Like I said earlier, 120 ultimate, there is a bug like that. Thankfully, next patch, apparently it's getting fixed. So next patch, it will tell you at what cost. So this bug won't happen. So now the only thing you can do is just build ulti and hope you weren't trying to burst them with that. Honestly, very frustrating and something to deal with, but it looks like next patch is finally getting fixed. You see, if you cast a 20 ultimate or more, you stun them, which is dumb because I had that. So for our back bar, we do run, obviously, Race Against Time. This is obviously our snare meter that just happens to have major expedition and minor force. Next is Elemental Susceptibility, or most commonly referred to as Alisus. Basically putting major breach on the target, almost 6k armor shred, putting burning chill that can concuss, and we all know what happens when you put chill on an enemy with an ice staff equipped, which we do have. We put minor brittle on them, making them take 10% more damage from crits for 4 seconds. Next skill, Resolving Vigor. Obviously this is our burst hot. Heal a lot over 5 seconds and grants us minor resolve. Next is Shadowy Disguise, or most commonly referred to as just Cloak. This is basically how we go invisible. And some flavor of crit. Not much to be said. I think we all know how polarizing this skill is. Next is Healthy Offer. This is obviously our burst heal. So if we're really low, we cast this skill and we heal a lot. And for our back bar, we do run Temporal Guard. This is basically just there for the simple passive of while slotted, get minor protection. But if you're saying, oh, I don't want to grind Stygic, Don't worry, I got you covered. You could put this one, you could put Soul Tether, but I recommend Soul Siphon as an emergency get me out of jail free card. And your snare immunity, you could put on, what is it called? Phantasmal Escape. The only problem is you will be missing 10% more crit damage and Major Expedition. But hey, if you don't want to grind Sidric, I understand. Alright, but enough, let's go with the stat sheets. Alright, so our max mag is over 17.5k, max health over 32k. This actually can go up to almost 33k if you do run Orzhov Smoke Bear Haunch. Max ammo over 21.5k. And our mag recup, let's check out our fully prog mag recup. Look at that, fully prog mag recup over 1700, and our stam recup is just shy of 2400. What are these stats? Now our fully prog weapon and spell damage. Look at that, fully prog weapon and spell damage is just shy of 6k. We have over 5800 weapon and spell damage, and our weapon crit is over 42.3%. And our penetration is at 6200. Might look a little low, but you have to realize we do have access to major and minor breach, which is basically almost an extra 9k armor shred on the target. So that's basically almost 15, that's over 15k armor shred on the target basically. And it doesn't include our Balors, which I'll talk to in a little bit. Let's go over the resist real quick. So our resist on our back bar, spell resist over 29k, and our physical resist is just shy of 29k. And our crit resist is 2082. But now everybody wants to see the fully proc weapon and spell damage with Balorgs. Look at that, weapon and spell damage was at 6833, and our physical and spell penetration is at 17.7k. We are absolutely melting someone, and if that bow hits, it's gonna hit. So for the attributes, we do have 20 points in the health and 44 points in the stam. Now for our advanced stat sheets, look at that, critical damage. We are doing 124% bonus damage from crits. That is a ridiculous amount of damage. For the Mundus, obviously we run the Shadow. The Shadow is the hardest hitting Mundus stone in the entire game. If you want the most possible damage, you run the Shadow. And it synergizes very well with Nightblade. Not only do you have just high base damage, you have high crit chance. So they're more than likely you're always going to be critting, and it also affects your healing, which is just beautiful to think about. And obviously we are a stage 3 vampire for one simple passive, or actually two in this build. Mainly Undeath. The lower health we are, the tankier we become. And thankfully for this passive, Strike from the Shadows. When we leave Sneak, Invisibility, or Misfarm, in our case Invisibility, we get 300 weapon and spell damage for 6 seconds. And for my race, I am a kitty cat. I mean a Khajiit. Yes, I finally made the switch last patch. And honestly, Khajiit just makes you hit so unbelievably hard. You get access to robustness, increases our mag stam and health recovery by 90. It's an okay passive, but the next passive, Lunar Blessing, increases our max health, max mag, and max stam by 900. An okay passive, but the main reason you'd want to be a Khajiit is for Feline Ambush. Increases your critical damage or critical healing by 12%. You do 12% more bonus damage from crits. That's stronger than the Shadow Mundus. The Shadow gives you 11%. This one gives you 12%. And it also increases your healing done. Some great alternatives. Wood Elf could be really good. Dark Elf could be really good. Orc could be really good actually on this build. Anything else I'd kind of maybe stay away from, to be honest. Alright, but enough. Let's go with the sets now. Alright, so for the first set we run is obviously the power that is Wretched Vitality. Whoa, Hex, Wretched Vitality again? Do you have anything new for us? Which is funny though, because no one gets mad that people run Balors on every build. Running Balors on every build is okay, but Wretched Vitality is not. I don't know, just something to poke fun at. Still, Wretched Vitality is the go-to. I mean, let's just look at it. There's so many reasons we run Wretched Vitality. You get up to 390 base recovery. That's almost 400 base recovery. What I mean by base, that means you can increase it by an extra 30% from pots, 15% from miners, 20% from... Not only that, it lets you go full offensive on your jewelry. This patch, we can get some unique buffs from pots, and most importantly, it's back barrable. Legit, this thing is back barrable. Sustain, more damage from jewelry, unique pots, and back barrable. What more do you want? And for our monster set, we do run obviously the powerhouse that is Balorgs. I mean, Balorgs is, if you want damage, you run Balorgs. This thing makes you hit unbelievably hard for no reason other than just to hit really hard. Being able to get to 500 weapon and spell damage and over 11k penetration, especially when your Incap's making your whole kit do 20% more bonus damage. Oh, So we do run one piece training because it's obviously a meta front bar, back bar setup with a mythic. Why one piece training? Because we do have access to one slot available, so why not slot training? Gives us the most max health for one piece. And obviously, what mythic do we run? I mean, come on. Markin Ring of Majesty. This thing is always going to be a staple on all my builds if possible. You put this build together, you get 200 weapon to spell damage and over 2300 armor. Just here you go for free. Don't even have to think. And for the main set we do run on this build, we do run Back Alley Gorman, or just commonly referred to as Gormans, or Gorman, whatever the heck it wants to be called. The reason I swapped to this is because, I was like, you know what, I want to do the most damage ever. I want to sacrifice very little crit and just multiply my damage by as much as possible. And honestly, this set is really good. Crit, weapon, and spell damage. What I like about this one is that it actually gives you 2 lines of crit on both bars, which is beautiful. So when we swap to our front bar, we get weapon and spell damage. But the main 5-piece, while you have a food buff active, your critical damage, your critical healing is increased by 13%. That's 5% more damage from crits with this set compared to Order's Wrath. Now, Order's Wrath would give you more crit chance, but if you're already going to crit the attack anyways, why not just increase the damage? Obviously, some great alternatives. You don't want to farm the set, you could run Order's Wrath, but if you want the most possible damage, this is the set you run. So let's see how we run it. So we do run the double axis of Gormans. The reason we want double axis is because each axe increases our critical damage by 6%. So that's an extra 12% damage from crits. On the main hand, we do run an Azor Stamina enchant with Nerdhome. Please, on the main hand, make it Nerdhome. It makes a difference. And we put an Azor Stamina enchant. Nice sustain, but mostly there just to be able to proc Minor Breach on the target, just in case our Minor Breach falls. On the offhand, we do run another axe with a shock damage enchant with Sharpen. Obviously, shock enchant could proc Minor Vuln, and Sharpen because in PvP, penetration is keen. And for our back bar, we do run the Ice Staff of Wretched Vitality. The reason we want the Ice Staff is to proc Elisus on our back bar, and we can put Minor Brittle, and it also gives us tankiness from blocking and block cost reduction. With an Onslaught enchant, and defending because tankiness is next to godliness. And for the body, we do run the typical 3-3-1, 3 heavy, 3 medium, 1 light. So we do run a heavy head of Balorix, heavy chest of the training, heavy shoulders of Balorix, a light sash of Gorman, and medium of hands, legs, and feet of Wretched Vitality. And for the enchants, if you can, try set all the pieces. If you can't do that, try set the big pieces. What I mean by that is head, chest, and legs. And if you can't do that, max damage perfectly fine. Just adjust your health attributes at the end. And for the traits, 6 MPen, 1 reinforce. Yes, 6 MPen, 1 reinforce. The only reinforce I have is a heavy chest of the training reinforced, and the rest MPen. But obviously, if you want some more heavy reinforced or some well fitted, go ahead. That's what I like about builds. We fit to our playstyle. And for the jewelry, we do run a necklace and ring of Gormans and a Markin Ring of Majesty because it only comes in a ring, duh. All infused, all with weapon and spell damage, preferably the ones that grant Stamrika. But if you got some, or all with Magrika, it wouldn't make or break the build. Now, for those that are wondering why not run Bloodthirsty, the thing about Bloodthirsty, it's not really good if your class is bursty. The thing is, like, if you're at half health, I'm gonna burst you. If that bow crits, you're gonna die. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're gonna die. So the whole point of Nightblade is that you get them to like 80-70% health and you just burst them with an Incap combo and they just get melted before Bloodthirsty even ramps up. And for the food we do run, I mean, obviously, Jewels of Mistral gives a lot of max health and recover of everything, saying that purple food is perfectly fine. But obviously, if you got Deep Pocket or don't mind spending a little extra, or Zafka Smoke Bear Haunch, gives you about 400 more max health and slight more recover. And for the pots we do run weapon crit and weapon damage pots. So this is basically how we get 12% weapon crit on our build. The reason we want weapon crit is because Nightblades do have access to minor savagery, which is 6% more weapon crit. So it just synergizes very well with the build. But obviously, always have tripod slots just in case. Alright, but enough of that, let's go over the CP now. So for the blue CP, we do run Focus Many, increases our healing done with single target heals. Master Arms, increases our damage done with direct damage attacks. Deadly Aim, increases our damage done with single target attacks. And Ironclad, reduces our damage taken from direct damage attacks. For the red CP, it's typical Seal of Approval red Hex CP. Third, increases our movement speed by 10%. Honestly, in my opinion, the best CP in the entire game. Survival Instincts, Waffles with a status effect or core combat skills cost less. That includes roll dodge, blocking, and CC breaking. And Relentlessness, being stunned or feared causes you to gain major protection for 3 seconds. And Pain's Refuge, the more net effects we have active on us, the taker will become. And for the green CP, it doesn't ever really matter. Rationer, Liquid Efficiency, Gifted Rider, and Steve's Blessing. But alright, cool beans, that's the build. Hope you guys did enjoy it. This StamBlade build was one of the hardest hitting StamBlade builds I have ever made. You hit extremely hard with this build. That was the goal with this build. I wanted to hit extremely hard, and I did it. I was hitting easily for 21k plus bow procs on this. Like ridiculous. And next patch is just going to be, Nightblades for some reason are getting a buff next patch, so I can't even wait. So next patch is the time to play Nightblade if they don't revert the changes they're going through right now. Nightblade in general, it's just a volatile class because of one simple skill. Whether you like it or hate it, Cloak is a very volatile and toxic skill. It's volatile, it's good when it works for you, but it sucks when it just keeps getting broken every time. And it's annoying when you're trying to 1vx and someone just keeps spamming Cloak over and over and you can't even get a single ability off of them. But for those that are still sticking around to the end of the video, I greatly do appreciate it. If you guys can hit the subscribe and like button, it really does go a long way, and I greatly do appreciate it. Also, if you guys ever wanted to vote for the first video or even the middle video of the month, you can go over to my Patreon and support me there, and you will be able to have exclusive access to the first build of every month. Also, follow me on Twitch if you guys ever want to see me get Zerged over live. I promise I will stream soon. I promise. Just super busy with work. But as always, hope you did enjoy the build video. Like the video if you liked it. Comment your thoughts and experience with the video. Also, anything I might have missed out, what videos we do next. Subscribe for more. But most importantly, stay Zerged.